Howdy y'all, this is Raven again. So I remember in one of my previous videos I said that I would go over why I believe that divine beings exist. The basis for anything that I currently believe, other than just simple logic and rationalization, is natural observation. So if I believe in anything, at least for a time, then it's going to be on account of something I have studied or observed in nature. I don't want to say deities, or I don't want to say gods or goddesses or angels or demons yet, because I don't really know how to define those. Those are very, very esoteric terms. They're very old, and they can mean totally different things to totally different people. When you study nature, you realize that everything in nature has an electromagnetic field and system. And this electromagnetic field is essentially the life force of anything that's living. Everything has it. Living things have it. Non-living things have it. A fork has an electromagnetic field, but so does a mouse, and so do you. And of course, the electromagnetic field within a fork isn't making the fork physiologically active because it's a fork. However, in biological mechanisms in living things, that's what the electromagnetic field does. The electromagnetic field and system fully interpenetrates and surrounds the entire living organism and regulates and operates every single mechanism and system within it. So the cells, for example, act and function in accordance to the regulation of the electromagnetic system. For example, your heart pumps because electromagnetic impulses are sent to the heart from the brain, and that's what makes it pump. Your cells function because they receive electromagnetic impulses and signals. The bulk of your genetic information, if not all of it, is actually contained not in your DNA, but in your electromagnetic field, your EMF. All of the information required to construct and operate a living being is contained in the living being's EMF, electromagnetic field. Well, when ancient sources talk about some kind of life force, whether it's ruh, as described in the Quran, or ruah, described in the Hebrew texts, or whether it's prana or apana, described in Hindu and Sanskrit, I should say Sanskrit texts, not Hindu, or chi, described in Chinese sources, ki in Japanese sources, mana, I think, in, some of the New Zealand tribal cultures, Maori, actually, yeah, Maori, they used to believe in something called mana. I don't know if I understand their concept of mana properly, so I won't go too much into it. Whether it's mana or prana or chi or whatever, they all generally describe the same basic attributes, that this is something that animates something, that gives something life, that makes something conscious and thinking and feeling and active, such that if you remove it from something or if you change it within something, something can die or become sick. So it's something that regulates the health and functioning of a living organism. That's what these ancient texts are all basically describing. And in modern times, we recognize this as the electromagnetic field and system of a living thing. It fits the description. The shoe fits. So we would recognize these things as being various ways in which ancient people described the electromagnetic field of a system. And many ancient sources, especially ones from India, often describe it as being kind of a light. So when people are gifted with the ability to see this life force, they always experience it or describe it as a sort of light. Well, it just so happens that light is electromagnetic energy. Specifically, light is a form of electromagnetic radiation. It's energy that radiates from an electromagnetic field. That's what it is. Light is electromagnetic radiation. So, again, the shoe fits. So we recognize from a scientific perspective, at least in modern times, that what various ancient cultures describe and call life force, ruh, prana, so on and so forth, is most likely none other than what we call electromagnetic energy. But electromagnetic energy can also be recognized as, how do I put it, a divine power, a divine field, a divine energy, because divine beings in various ancient religions are described as being able to operate nature as well. For example, the angels, or the Malaka in Arabic, are said in the Quran to drive the wind. Well, it just so happens that the electromagnetic radiation from the sun, as well as the thermal radiation from the sun, the heat, these two forms of radiation are what operate the wind. Actually, to be more accurate, it's more like the heat does it. I mean, the electromagnetic radiation, the light, it does have an effect on the wind, but what actually really creates the wind is the heat, because the heat from the sun heats up the gases in the atmosphere, causing them to expand. But then they contract when they cool. So they expand and contract, and this makes the atmosphere pulsate like a heart, just like a heart, and this makes the wind move. So I should actually be more specific. It's not just the electromagnetic energy, but also thermal energy. These two things that match the descriptions of what are called life force or spirit or prana, etc. in ancient cultures. And because you also need heat in order for your body to be living. If you deprive your body of all its heat, you die. So those are the two forces that together constitute life force, scientifically speaking. Heat and electromagnetic energy. And those are the two things that from the sun act upon our atmosphere to give us the wind that we have. And at the same time, we also know that our electromagnetic energy is capable of containing information and processing information. which I think is the essential definition of consciousness. A mind is something that arises in a system that both contains, transmits, and processes information. That is what a mind is. That's very simplified, of course. It's much more complex than that, but that's the basics of what a mind is. And that's what electromagnetic energy has shown a capacity for. It can do that. So I don't think that it's so far-fetched to come to the conclusion that the very same electromagnetic and thermal energy that creates the wind, the sun, is also conscious in some way. For all we know, the sun, or at least the light and heat coming from it, could be conscious. It could, in fact, be conscious. It could be intelligent. And it fits the description of angels. So, if the shoe fits, let it be worn. That gives you a sort of scientific basis for a kind of scientific divinity of a sort. Anyways, I don't want this video to be too long, so I'm going to stop here and I will continue later.